All right, good morning. It is April 15th and Good Friday for some and just Friday for others. And this is Turf Team Times online today. We have Dr. Dominic Petrella, Dr. David Shetlar, and myself, and we are a bad advertisement for Rogaine. We also have Dr. Danneberger, Dr. Drs Gardner, and the inimitable Pamela Sherratt. Leading us off today with a sports turf introduction. Pam.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Well, I'm going to give a bit of an update today. I'm headed out to Cincinnati and going up to pick up some plants for my class. And so I just thought it might be nice to give a bit of an update on the turf team and some of the things the students are doing for people. So that's my update for today. First of all, congratulations to Dr. Drs Gardner, who went to the college banquet last night and was awarded for his outstanding service to students. So congratulations to Dr. Drs Gardner, well deserved. He does fantastic work with the Turf Club and working with students. So congratulations, Dr. Gardner. I just want to mention we have 2 golf outings coming up. The OSU ATI Turf Club will be having their golf outing on Saturday, April 30th at Hawk's Nest. Information on that can be garnished from Dr. Petrella. And the OSU Turf Club down here in Columbus, they will have their event on May 1st. I have posted a link to the registration details in the chat box. The Sports Turf Managers Association will be having their first field day of the year. It's exciting stuff. Again, Thursday, June 16th. We'll get the opportunity to go to Lower Field, the Columbus Crew's new stadium downtown. And then we'll go together and have a game and go to a game at Huntington Park. So this is a really nice event from the Sports Turf Council, Ohio Sports Turf Managers Association, a part of OTF. And registration is through OTF, online on Twitter, and they've been sending information out to the members also via email. And then I also wanted to mention, get the date out there to our high schools and 2-year programs around the state. Wednesday, December the 7th will be Student Day at OTF. So we're going to do the student competition. They'll be invited to the trade show. They'll be invited to the education programs. And we'll also have a job fair. So I'm encouraging everybody to sort of be involved with that. I think it's a great opportunity for us to entice youth to join our industry. So if you know of high school programs, 2-year programs that would like to be involved with this, please direct them to that. And then finally, I've also put in the chat box, there is a survey that's out there. I believe OTF tweeted it, but I believe it was developed by Dr. Nangle, Dr. Petrella. We're asking industry professionals in Ohio to complete that survey and let us know what important research you want us to do, what you consider to be pertinent and important research topics right now. So again, that's in the chat box. With that, I am headed off to Cincinnati. Looking forward to getting on the road and getting out of Columbus and seeing some of Ohio. So with that, I will stop my share. And oh, one last thing. We are deep in the thicket of putting together the education program for OTF this coming December. We have our academics nailed down. We're excited about the academics we have coming. But if you have ideas, any of you have ideas about topics or speakers, especially from industry professionals that you would like to see on the program, please reach out to myself, Dr. Nangle, or Dr. Gardner. And with that, I will say ta-ra and head out to Cincinnati. Thank you, guys.
Ta-ra, Pam! All right, following that, Dr. Gardner with an update on the weed and herbicide world.
All right, good morning, everybody. Let me share my screen real quick. Okay, so here we are, April 15th. And if you have not put out your pre-emergence herbicide for crabgrass control, hey, today's a great day to do it. And the weather's going to be pretty nice today, right? Near 70 degrees, sunny out. Any of our herbicides that are not liquid formulations of dithiopyr should be going out by now. So, you know, a couple of things that we say to predict when we should apply for optimal control are when the forsythia is finishing bloom, which it is, depending on where you are in the state. When the 2-inch soil temperatures reach about 50 degrees, hey, this morning it was 49 degrees here in Columbus. Like I said, now's the time to put those out. The good news is that if you put them out now, you're probably going to just about optimize your control. You don't want to go too late. You want to have a little time to quote unquote activate the pre-emergence herbicide, which basically means that it's not water soluble and you want the action of rain or irrigation to spread or disperse those solids out over the soil surface to produce a uniform layer. But now's the time to make that application. Now, liquid applications of dithiopyr can go out until 1 to 2 leaf stage. So there is some post-emergence activity with the liquid formulations of dithiopyr. Granular formulations are strictly pre-emergence. As far as when to start mowing, when the grass is about 1.5 times the height you intend to mow it, because remember, you're not supposed to remove more than 1/3 of the leaf blade at a time. This is one of the big mistakes that homeowners make. They let their grass go up 8, 10, 15 inches before they mow for the first time. And then I stole this picture from Carl Danneberger, who's on the call this morning. But, basically, if your yard looks like this, it's a problem because it's a stress to the grass. And this is one of the things that you can do to mismanage your lawn, which results in bare areas, which are now occupied by things like hairy bittercress, right? So something else that I wanted to talk about is what is it that we do with winter annuals? One, note that they're primarily in bare soil areas. So like when I'm walking out at the research center, we've got nice stands of Kentucky bluegrass, perennial ryegrass, and wherever there's a hole in them, they're occupied by hairy bittercress and other winter annuals right now. So this one in particular has kind of exploded when it comes to the population density over the last 10 years or so. It's really kind of annoying. Controlling winter annual weeds can be difficult, right? So these germinate in the fall, they overwinter, and physiologically, when they come out of winter, for whatever reason, they just tend to be pretty resistant to our herbicides. So one thing to consider trying is flurazulam, which is the active ingredient in Defender. That's good on dandelion, clover, and the winter annual broadleaf weeds. So if you have things like plantain and other weeds, you'd want to mix that with something else. But if you're just dealing with winter annuals and dandelion and clover, Defender is a good choice. But otherwise, some of the 4-way herbicides in quotes like T-Zone, 4-Speed, Speed Zone, etc., they can be pretty effective for winter annual weed control. I have some anecdotal evidence to suggest that chelated iron is pretty effective on winter annuals. Now that's a contact herbicide that's used by the organic lawn care industry. It's a little bit more expensive. I say that tongue in cheek, but I do have some evidence to suggest that that product works well. I'm actually going to formally test that this year. That's some of the plots that I'm going to put out next week. But also note where those are. And if you have a severe problem with winter annuals, you can consider applying a pre-emergence herbicide in September to hopefully prevent them from germinating over the fall. Also, what you can do now is getting back to that whole thing about people should be mowing if their grass is growing. You can mow to remove the flowers so that hopefully you reduce the seed population. Our broadleaf weeds are starting to look like this, the perennials, right? So you see some dandelions in bloom, some violets, some ground ivy. And the temptation is to go spray now, but we usually wait until May because the research has shown a couple of things. One, herbicides that we use tend to be more effective in warmer weather. The other thing is that after they have bloomed and they're attempting to set seed, they're in a physiologically weakened condition that makes them more susceptible to the action of the herbicides. Okay, so the temptation might be to go out and spray these now because you can see them and you might get some activity, but generally speaking, there's a reason that we wait until May in order to do that. So I say that in response to Pam Sherratt's question the last time that we did Turf Team Times, because she said that she had ground ivy in bloom. And what to do about that. And again, the hard answer is probably to wait. Now, if I was being a cynic, I would say, well, the flowers are pretty, right? They look just the same as this thing that we plant on purpose, but usually people want to get rid of those, right? So again, the problem with ground ivy and violet and some of those difficult weeds is that you have to pick the right herbicide. So, your standard 3-way formulation, 2,4-D, MCPP, dicamba, it's marketed under a variety of different brand names. Sometimes you get good results, like what I'm showing here. Sometimes you get kind of so-so results, and then sometimes the control is just not so good. And so with those more difficult to control weeds, that's really when you should consider using one of those 4-way formulations. Or also a common question that I get is, can I spike my 3-way herbicide with triclopyr? And yes, on the triclopyr label, there is usually directions specifically about how to do that. Something else that you consider is that newer herbicide Sure Power, marketed for broadleaf weed control, but the one active ingredient flumioxazin is particularly active on ground ivy. Plus there's triclopyr in that formulation, but remember Sure Power, you have to use that in the summertime. That's not a good herbicide to use in the springtime because we know that there can be some phytotoxicity issues on actively growing grass. So it's better to use that product during the months of June through August. All right, and that is what I have for today.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner. All right, Dr. Petrella.
All right. So this is the time of year. Am I screen sharing?
Yeah, but you need to put the power.
Okay.
There we go.
Sorry. So this time of year, everybody's looking to reseed. The problem is we get really inconsistent weather. So we're putting our turf seed in the top inch or half an inch, and when we get cold dips in temperature, we can be exposed to temperatures that aren't good for germination. So one of the good ways we can get around it is using permeable covers. So permeable covers, like what you see here on the right, they're really thin plastic fabric that still allows water in. Those are different than the impermeable covers some of you might put out in the winter to protect against winter killing. These are meant to increase soil temperature and then improve establishment when we have these weird fluctuating temperatures in spring. And they're really useful in late spring and early fall, okay? So this would be an example of a project that we were doing at the University of Minnesota before I came here. This was last summer, where we put out these plastic permeable covers. And this is the Evergreen Radiant cover. And then we wanted to monitor soil temperatures to see how much of a boost we get in soil temperature when these covers are out. So this is a tiny little soil temperature sensor from a company called Onset. I'm only looking at soil temperature just below the turfgrass surface or just below the soil surface because that's where the seeds are. And that's where we should be concerned for soil temperatures. So we're going to look at how much these covers now increase soil temperatures compared to areas that don't have a cover. So what we're looking at on the y-axis is gain in soil temperature under the cover. So anything above this black line or everything above 0 is showing that the cover is increasing temperature or soil temperature compared without a cover. This is data from about April 10th to about June 1st. So what you can see is that on some days, we get a 5 degree all the way up to 8 degree Fahrenheit increase in that soil temperature, about a half inch, an inch below the soil. Some days we get almost barely any increase at all. So some days the cover may have a benefit, some days they may not. Here's nighttime soil temperature. So again, above 0 means we're getting an increasing soil temperature under the cover compared to areas without a cover, so temperature gain. Nighttime soil temperatures can get a boost between 2 up to 6 degrees Fahrenheit. Some days we get no boost at all, okay? So soil temperature can be especially increased under these permeable covers on sunny days. So a lot of these plastic materials are really dependent on sunlight to heat them up, and then they heat up the soil surface, that half inch below. Cloudy days, they will be less effective. So if you're putting these out on a week that's cloudy, don't expect a massive boost in soil temperature. So on average, this cover increased soil temperature in the day by about 3.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Maximum increase could be about 7.5. At nighttime, we're only getting about a 2 degree Fahrenheit increase on average, but a maximum increase of 4. So again, sunny, you're going to get a nice boost. But if you have a cloudy stretch like we get here in the spring, they might not be as effective as you might want them to be, okay? So we looked at this in a study looking at the effects of these covers on bent grass establishment. So we looked at 12 different creeping bent grass varieties seeded on about April 16th last year in St. Paul, Minnesota. Newer varieties like Luminary, all the way to older varieties like Pencross creeping bent grass. They're established on a soil-based putting green surface like you see here on the right. We direct seeded these seeds on soil, covered them with sand, and covered with this permeable cover or not. So the big thing is, and this one I want to point out, we're looking at here days to germination, days to 50% cover, in days to 90% cover. Okay, so more days mean that the plants were less effective at germinating or establishing. Under the covers, all the bent grasses germinated about 2 days faster. Okay, and it sped up establishment by about 7 days. So you were getting faster cover on these plots if you applied a permeable cover or this evergreen radiant cover. Just to show you some pictures of how the plots looked like. These green areas that you see, these are plots with the cover over top of them. These areas down here that I'm circling, these areas weren't covered. So we had very little to no germination. This was 15 days after seeding. This is 21 days after seeding in a plot that was covered on the left and a plot that was not covered. And you can see the big boost in germination and cover we get when we put this permeable cover on top of the plots. Here's 42 days after seeding, not covered on the left versus covered on the right. Massive boost in growth, okay? So not only do these covers potentially increase germination speed, but they also increase growth. And therefore, you'll fill up those gaps in soil much faster. Another picture, the circles, inside the red squares, those are plots that were covered, okay? So you can see a pretty big difference. And this is about, like I said, a week faster. They will increase surface coverage. We looked at 12 varieties. There weren't much differences across varieties. So Independence was the worst. That took about 2 months to get complete cover. That was whether or not it had a permeable cover or not. Pencross, unfortunately, an old variety that people don't necessarily want to use. Pencross took the least time to get good cover. It's about 30 days. That was equivalent, though, to things like Memorial, Barracuda, and Declaration. So overall, covers increase soil temperature when it's sunny. They can get it up there about 10 degrees Fahrenheit more. You might get a couple days, germination might be a couple days faster, and cover might be about a week faster. Really no difference in cultivar. You'll get a boost no matter what you put out there. All right, that's everything I got. Also, tonight is opening day. So here we go. I'll say it. I don't like saying this, but go Guardians.
Better than the football team, whatever. One other thing to remind yourselves about is if you're using the permeable covers and they have alternating green and white stripes, you are going to see some tiger stripes, right? The darker green color is going to absorb more heat and there will be differentiation there. That's not going to be something you should be overly concerned about. If it is, you can apply at cost pigment to try and even that color out. But over the years, I have seen when green and white cover is used, you're going to see tiger stripe differentiation. And that's, again, reflection of light versus absorption of light and differential heating. All right, next up, Dr. Danneberger. Award for not unmuting yourself, Dr. Danneberger.
Thanks, Ed. If I was controlling myself, I would just keep myself muted and then just say thanks for the words. But Dominic, just quick question. Is this the day that baseball wears the Jackie Robinson number 42? So the
Yes,
Guardians' first home game will be the blue number 42. So are you going?
I will be up at Jacobs Field tonight. Yes, I will.
How cool. All right. I don't have anything else to say. No, I'm just kidding. Couple things about growth. One is kind of related to the temperatures and stuff, and that's what I want to do is getting a few people asking me about, the patches in their lawn. We have differential growth of turf grass, especially in home lawns. And those bunches or patches of grass, they're worried about it and want to do something about it. And it's tall fescue. And I just tell them, since tall fescue starts growing before the other grasses, give it a few weeks and all the other grasses will catch up and it'll be fine if you've never noticed it before. Along those lines, and if you watch the Masters, this past weekend, especially on Saturday. Sir Nick Faldo made the comment of with regard to green speed. I want to get it real quick here. He says, there are so many things to calculate. The greens will be cold. The grass will be cold. I can promise you it makes a difference. All right. So I assume that meant ball roll, and I assume it meant slowing the ball roll down. Got a lot of attention on social media, but I still didn't really think too much about it until I got asked the question yesterday by some golfers at the Columbus District Golf Association. And there's no data. I've seen no studies on cold temperatures and green speed. Okay. And when you think about ball roll and what slows or minimizes distance it rolls, it has to do with friction factors. Could be moisture in the ground, could be a lot of factors, but I don't think cold temperatures is one of them. Matter of fact, you might be able to make the case that cooler temperatures, you would actually get greater ball roll because you might have a little bit less growth. But anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. And there's a quick comment about how quickly things get picked up and transmitted. And the one thing great about this business, you never know where a question is going to come from and be asked. But if anybody knows of any research that's ever been done with cold temperatures and ball roll, I would like to know it. But for now, there's really probably no effect. And that's it for me, Ed.
Thanks, Carl. Of course, the other thing to take into account is that the root zone in that particular location is not going to be cold. Remember how the greens are constructed. If you stand as hot air in,
they have some of the heating units and things in some of the greens. So
right. Okay, Dr. Carl, who's ruined everyone's hopes of buffering out green speed questions. We'll move on to Dr. Shetlar.
Thanks, Ed. And what I wanted to cover today is just briefly, if you haven't purchased your insecticides for the season, or you didn't attend our pesticide recertification update training this winter, I wanted to quickly talk about the two groups of insecticides, which are our major workhorses for some of the tough to control insects, especially white grubs and last year caterpillars. The first ones are the diamides. I want to alert everybody that last year, Tetrino got registered. That's our second anthranilic diamide that is pretty much equivalent to acelepryn. And so if you've been a little bit annoyed by the high price of acelepryn, I've been promised by the Bayer people that they're going to make their Tetrino competitive in the market. So you might want to check that out. As far as I'm concerned, the residual activity is about the same, especially for the caterpillars out there. We're seeing 3 months of residual activity for white grubs and so forth. Both of them, if they're applied in May, should get your bill bugs, should give you season-long control for the caterpillars, and then get your white grubs. Ferrence, on the other hand, is a water-soluble diamide, which means that it acts very quick. And Ferrence is actually rising in usage for the annual bluegrass weevil as a curative control for the annual bluegrass weevil larvae. And so if you do need a curative control for annual bluegrass weevil larvae, bill bug larvae, or white grubs, consider Ferrence. When it comes to the neonicotinoids, I've got some bad news. And the bad news is that it appears that EPA is on the verge of banning liquid applications of the neonicotinoids in residential lawns. That hasn't occurred yet, but I point this out to you. If you're especially in the lawn care business, you probably need to be thinking about using granular formulations I think the vast majority of you are probably doing that. There are a few companies that are still applying liquids of the neonicotinoids. Why are they doing that? EPA periodically runs some evaluations of exposure, and it appears that we were not good stewards of those liquid applied in the lawn. They found too many of the lawn care applicators were out there in their shorts and short sleeve shirts during the summertime spraying liquid neonicotinoids, and they were picking up residue on their skin. And so they figured, well, the way to stop that is just make everybody do granules. I guess that's a bad thing. To the neonicotinoids, both Merit and Meridian still have probably no more than about 6 weeks of effective residual. So if you've been having trouble with white grubs on that, try to move your application closer to mid-July to optimize the maximum amount of those materials in the soil thatch interface when the white grubs hatch out. Clothianidin, both Arena and Loft, still have probably about a 3-month residual. So those are the products that you can apply in May that would get your bill bugs and would still get you some control of your white grubs coming in July and August. And finally, the last neonicotinoid, Xylam, is another water-soluble neonicotinoid. It's doing very well as a curative, but it doesn't last long, has only about a 2-week residual in the turf. So that's kind of the update on those instances that I wanted to have turf grass managers be thinking about if they still are going to be purchasing some of those insecticides. Ed, off to you.
Thanks, Dave. A couple of things just to finish up on the disease front. So from the standpoint of soil temperatures, and now this is in the Cleveland area, 2 inches deep on 0.175 mowing height on a modified root zone. So the average has been kind of vacillating and swinging wildly in the last 5 days. We've gone 46, 47, 54, 58, but we're back to 52 degrees as of yesterday. And with the forecast, our temperature's going to drop back pretty dramatically, probably down into the 40s again. So it's kind of one of those hurry up and wait times a year. Have seen a little bit of red thread activity out at Hawk's Nest. And looking at our forecast, I'd also think that potentially YT might be starting to float around. Other than that, I think we're pretty good for the time frame. Another 2 weeks before we get the next one out to you folks. If there's any questions or any concerns, feel free to respond to the video or send us an email as needed. But with that, I'll say thanks to everybody and talk to you all soon.